Today, we're diving deep into the seduction game. And I'm not talking about romance or courtship in the way we usually think about them. We're talking about the game itself. This is a world of calculated moves, psychological tactics, a place where the line between genuine charm and outright manipulation can become dangerously blurry. We're going to unpack the playbook, look at the actual science that makes these tactics work, and then get really serious about the risks involved. What happens when attraction stops being this beautiful mutual discovery and starts becoming a weapon? And the thing is, this isn't just some abstract theory. These are patterns you've probably seen, maybe even experienced yourself, without ever knowing what to call them. So let's pull back the curtain. One of our main sources drops this bombshell right at the start, and it really sets the stage for everything we're about to discuss. Just think about that phrase for a second: psychological warfare. It implies strategy, tactics, winners, losers. It suggests that if you're passive in attraction, you're going to fail. And to win, you need a battle plan, not for a physical space, but for the mind and the emotions of another person. The idea here is that understanding someone's deepest hopes, their private insecurities, well, that's your key to victory. But this forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question, right? Is this just a cynical but maybe honest take on human nature? Or is it something much, much darker? A justification for manipulation.
So that's exactly where we'll begin. Section 1, a game of psychology. For the rest of this explainer, we're going to be looking at the two sides of this very, very dangerous coin. On one side, you have the argument that attraction isn't magic, it's a skill that can be mastered. But on the other, you have this urgent, flashing red light, a warning that these exact same principles are the building blocks for emotional harm.
Now, one of the perspectives we're looking at makes a bold claim. It argues that a lot of failure in modern dating has nothing to do with looks or money or status. It's about a fundamental ignorance of psychology. This viewpoint says that all the common advice, be nice, be direct, just be honest and wear your heart on your sleeve, actually kills the one thing that fuels attraction: mystery. The idea is that attraction isn't a logical checklist, it's an emotional current. And it thrives on a paradox, this weird mix of feeling safe but also a little bit thrilled by the danger, a sense of security mixed with suspense. A straightforward logical approach just completely misses that, and it falls flat. And according to this source, the cost of not understanding this psychological game, well, it's being friend-zoned, overlooked, or worse.
In this slide, this really gets to the core of the whole thing. This is the central conflict. On the left, you've got this really compelling claim. Attraction isn't some random lightning strike. It's a science. It's a set of psychological tools that anyone can learn, practice, and master. But then you look to the right, and there's this incredibly serious caution. These exact same tactics are, by their very nature, manipulative. They're designed to pull psychological levers, and they are notorious for backfiring, causing real pain not just to the person they're used on, but to the user as well. This is the razor's edge we're going to be walking for the rest of our time here.
All right, Section 2, the playbook of mystery. So now we get into the how. How is this actually done? This section is all about the specific tactics, and we're starting with the foundations, the art of pacing and ambiguity. These are the opening moves in this psychological chess match, and they're all designed to do one thing: spark an intense curiosity that keeps the other person completely hooked.
The opening moves in this playbook are actually pretty counterintuitive. First up, avoid aggressive pursuit. Now, why is that? Well, the thinking is that constant, unrelenting attention just feels predictable. It can even come off as a little desperate, right? It takes all the tension out of the air. Second, you have to cultivate ambiguity. This means you stop being so literal and direct. You start using suggestion, nuance. You let your language have layers, so their imagination has to do some of the work. And third, create small obstacles. Now, this doesn't mean being impossible or playing hard to get in a childish way, but the sources argue that we just don't value what comes too easily. A little delay in a text response, being genuinely busy sometimes, these small hurdles supposedly make the prize seem that much more desirable.
This quote from Robert Greene's infamous book, The Art of Seduction, just absolutely nails this concept. Think about it in our world of instant communication. That feeling when your phone is just blowing up with texts from one person, needing constant validation. It can feel smothering. This strategy says to do the exact opposite. Pull back. Create a little space, a little bit of suspense. You want them wondering, wait, Are they interested or not? What are they thinking? It's that uncertainty, that tension, that this playbook claims is the real spark of obsession. It turns a boring straight line into this unpredictable, compelling dance.
So what does ambiguity actually look like? Well, it's about using language that's emotionally rich but leaves some room for interpretation. So instead of a blunt compliment like, "You look beautiful," you might say something more like, "There's a certain kind of light about you today." You see the difference? The second one is vague, it's poetic, and it makes the other person pause and wonder, what do they mean by that? Their brain has to engage. They start filling in those gaps with their own hopes and desires. The trick is, it shifts the entire focus from what you're literally saying to how your words are making them feel.
But, and this is a huge but, this is where you start playing with fire. A little mystery can be fascinating, sure, but living in a constant state of uncertainty is emotionally draining. If someone always feels like they're being played, like they can never get a straight answer, like they're constantly on unsteady ground, that initial curiosity very quickly sours. It turns into confusion, which then morphs into anxiety, and ultimately, it leads to a complete and total breakdown of trust. It's an incredibly fine line between being a compelling puzzle and just creating an emotional minefield for someone else.
Okay, Section 3, the language of obsession. This brings us to the power of the words themselves. Here we're going to dig into how specific linguistic tools, everything from a poetic tone to a highly targeted kind of praise called precision flattery, can be used to forge a really intense psychological bond. When you look at these tools, there's a clear theme, right? It's less about the literal information you're giving and way more about the emotional atmosphere you're creating. It's about sounding more like an artist and less like an accountant. But honestly, the most powerful tool on this list is the last one. Listen more than you speak. In a world where everybody is just waiting for their turn to talk, actually truly listening to someone, making them feel completely seen and understood, is described as one of the most powerful seductive forces there is. The strategy is to get them to open up, which not only makes them feel incredibly valued, but it also gives you all the psychological ammunition you need for the next, much more dangerous tactic.
And that brings us to something far more calculated, and frankly, far more manipulative: precision flattery. Okay, so this isn't your average compliment. This is a targeted psychological operation. It requires you to carefully observe someone, to listen to everything they say and don't say, and to pinpoint an area of deep-seated insecurity. Then, you praise that exact quality, and you do it with what seems like total sincerity. So, for example, if someone secretly worries they aren't smart enough, a well-timed comment about their brilliant, insightful mind can feel like a life-altering revelation. It creates this intense, immediate bond, this feeling of, wow, you're the only person who truly gets me.
And the source material does not pull any punches here. It compares precision flattery to an addictive drug, and that metaphor is disturbingly accurate. See, when you target someone's deepest insecurity with validation, you can create a powerful psychological dependency. They start to crave that feeling, but they can only get it from you. And just like with a drug, over time they build up a tolerance. That original compliment isn't enough anymore. Now it takes more praise, more intense validation just to get the same emotional high. This tactic was never designed to build a genuine connection. It was designed to create an addict. Okay, Section 4, the neurological hook. So why? Why do these tactics, the mystery, the ambiguity, this precision flattery, why do they work so well on a deep biological level? Now we're going to shift from the playbook to the hard science. Let's look at the brain chemistry that explains the intense, almost compulsive craving that these patterns can create.
This is the key question that unlocks the whole thing. We all say we want stability, right? We want a consistent, reliable partner. So why are we so often drawn to the unpredictable? Why can a partner who's hot one day and cold the next hold our attention so much more intensely than someone who's just steady and dependable? It makes no logical sense. But the answer isn't in our logical mind. It's deep, deep inside our brain's ancient reward system.
The scientific principle that explains all this is called intermittent rewards, or intermittent reinforcement. And you already know exactly how this works because it's the same mechanism that makes slot machines and your social media feeds so addictive. Think about it. If a reward is predictable, if you know you'll get it every single time, it becomes boring. But if that reward comes at random, unpredictable times, our brain releases a much, much bigger surge of the pleasure chemical dopamine. This creates a powerful craving, this compulsive need to just keep pulling the lever or refreshing your feed, desperate for that next hit of pleasure.
This chart shows you exactly what's happening inside your brain. That first bar, predictable reward, that's like a daily good morning text from a partner. It's nice, it's pleasant, you get a little dopamine response, but it's not a thrill. But now look at the second bar. Look at that massive spike from an unpredictable reward. That's the surprise text after 3 days of silence. That's the unexpected compliment when you were feeling down. The thrill of the unknown, the sheer relief from all that tension, that's what our brain registers so intensely. All those tactics of ambiguity and running hot and cold are designed specifically to exploit this incredibly powerful neurological loop.
And this is the dark destination that whole neurological process can lead to. Psychological research shows that people can literally become addicted to the emotional roller coaster of an unstable relationship. You get hooked on the incredible highs that follow those painful lows, and you find yourself compulsively chasing that next unpredictable sign of affection. At that point, you're no longer in love with the person for who they are, you're addicted to the chemical rush they provide. It's a truly sobering and, frankly, terrifying thought.
And that brings us to our final and honestly most critical section. Section 5, a perilous double-edged sword. We've seen the playbook, and we've seen the science that makes it work. So now we have to confront the ethical fallout. This is where we have to ask the really tough question. Where does playful attraction cross that line and become harmful manipulation?
This table lays out the chilling duality of these tactics just perfectly. Every single tool in the playbook has a positive intended effect and a dark, perilous flip side. Strategic ambiguity, on the surface, is meant to create mystery, but its peril is that it so easily causes profound confusion and anxiety. Precision flattery is designed to build this unique sense of intimacy, but its real danger is creating an unhealthy dependency that's built entirely on deceit. And the whole strategy of crafting an illusion, which is supposed to create this beautiful shared fantasy, can so quickly become a deceptive trap that isolates someone from reality and from their own gut feelings.
And this is, without a doubt, the most severe warning from all the psychological research. While a little bit of mystery is a normal part of getting to know someone, this specific combination of tactics, creating constant uncertainty, targeting insecurities, fostering dependency, these are the exact same tools found in the patterns of emotional abuse. The line is crossed when the goal is no longer about mutual connection, but about gaining power and control over another person's emotions. When used with bad intent, this playbook stops being about seduction and becomes a blueprint for causing real, lasting harm.
And here's the kicker. It's not just the target who pays the price in this game. The sources remind us that even history's so-called great seducers, figures like Casanova, often ended their lives in profound loneliness, scandal, and ruin. There's a deep, tragic irony there, isn't there? The supposed masters of creating connection ultimately prove incapable of forming a single genuine, lasting one. It suggests that a life built on illusion and manipulation eventually just corrodes your own soul, leaving you completely empty.
So, after all of this, the most important thing to remember is that this is a two-way street. These psychological dynamics are not gender-specific. They aren't limited to one type of personality. Anyone can learn to use them, and just about anyone, under the right emotional circumstances, can fall for them. The best defense isn't learning how to play the game better yourself. The best defense is awareness. It's about recognizing these patterns so you can see when they're being used on you and protect your own emotional health before you get pulled into that addictive loop.
Which leaves us with one final provocative question to think about. In this whole complicated game of attraction, who is really seducing whom? Is one person ever truly in control? Or is it more often a kind of mutual performance, a psychological dance, where both people are, to some degree, crafting an illusion and buying into a fantasy? It makes you wonder. Maybe, in this game, the person we are all most busy seducing is ourselves.